them. Let's come back to our discussion here in studio. We'll line up more of our correspondents from our different locations across the country to speak to us throughout the next hour. For now, we continue. And Roselyn, I was asking about your biggest highlight this year, and would like to talk about the positives first before we get to the corruption and everything else that was.
Yeah, for me, since I was privileged to cover Parliament, this is the first time we didn't see the two houses going for neck to neck. Remember in 2015...
That was a good thing?
Yeah,
okay.
Remember in 2015, it was the back and forth, everything happening in the National Assembly. They were always rejecting everything coming from the Senate, but that we did not see in 2016. Most of what you were seeing were mediations and consensus from both the houses, which for us is a very good thing that now they are accepting that indeed they have to coexist.
Is it too late though? Because it is months to the election.
Yeah, it is too late because remember when they started on a wrong footing, whereby the Senate had to even go to the Supreme Court to just seek an interpretation of how they're supposed to work around the division of revenue. But we've seen lately the two houses have been able to agree. Even with the disputed election law, we didn't expect it. The fact that it is affecting all the leaders, we didn't expect it to go to the Senate, but it did go to the Senate. So for us, that is a very good start. Now, if you go to some of the things that I didn't actually like in 2016. One of them is the leadership in the women leadership in Parliament, because now we have the highest number of women, both in the National Assembly, and we have 18 nominated women in the Senate. But if you follow up, they have done nothing.
Why is that? They have not done anything. And there was a conversation about something as small as sanitary
And I'm one of the people who have never been in support of the two-thirds gender. Because I was saying, if already now, the number that we have, we are not seeing anything big they have done, why should we add more numbers in the House when the few who are there have not done anything?
But can the few who are there have any impact?
Yes,
or are they bullied around by the...
Let's start with the Senate. The Senate, we have 47 elected senators, and we have 18 nominated women. Out of the 18, even as we sit here, can you name any?
Well, Beatrice Elachi.
Yes, Elachi, Lesuda, Wangari. The list goes on. Can you add some more? You see,
so you're saying that they've not been vocal enough? They have
not been vocal enough. They've not been very active in the House. I feel like Wangari has been very good. Elachi has been very good, and she's a majority whip, and she's really tried. Ongoro has tried as a member of the Speaker's panel. We have Janet Ongera, and we also have Lesuda, who has tried. Let's give them
so
something.
It's not like they're not doing anything.
But look at the number. We expected that the voice of women will be heard in the Senate, being that at least we have 28 women who are not elected, and you cannot tell us that they're in their constituencies campaigning or doing anything. They are nominated, which means they have offices here, and they're supposed to be representing women, because some of them were nominated to represent women, some are supposed to represent the youth. But we're not seeing that. Okay, if you go back to the National Assembly, we have over 68 women elected. But how many do we hear? We hear less than 10 who are active. Even for me, it becomes very difficult to even get a comment from a woman MP. You call them, she will respond to you 3 or 4 days later, and she'll tell you, oh, I didn't get the message, or I didn't understand what you were saying.
And that goes to that question I was asking Betty earlier. So is it about, the kind of women we are putting up there, or is it just about a number?
Okay, so if we're going to talk about this fairly, because I really don't agree with her.
You don't agree with her?
I don't agree with her. But I'll agree with you on this level that the sort of activities you've seen from the women representatives in both houses is lower than your expectations.
Yes.
True. But what are the 80% of the men doing?
The 80%.
If you want to name the male senators, let's name them. Yeah, you have 23%. As you said, 18 women in the Senate. Let's name the remaining 40 or so men. You see, what have they done? We only know Marcomen. Who else?
I have so many. I can name
so what have they been doing?
I can name the entire list.
So let's be fair. Okay, now we look at how, the performance of our women leadership, and we're a bit unfair with them. And I'll say this, yeah? For many of them, this is their first time in parliament. For many of them, especially the women reps, they did not understand, and we have seen this. It's not our fault, it's their fault. They did not understand the role of the women rep. Okay, and she is actually a designated. She has a designated post, yeah, to represent the entire county. That's not just women and not just youth, but the entire county. And her post is designated to her as a woman. So that understanding was missing for a long time. For much of their first tenure, they did not have any resources, you know, and so there's that limitation that they had to face. During the times when they were expected to stand up, they did, and I'll talk about the stripping incidences, where the contributions, especially by Rachel Shebesh and Wangari, contributed to the amendment in the Security Laws Amendment Act that makes it a criminal offense, which you can be penalized for up to 10 years in jail. That particular clause has changed the way Kenyans view women, the way Kenyans treat women, and how the safety of women in the country. It did not immediately stop the stripping incidents, but do you hear about them anymore?
Okay.
You
maybe they're not.
There's
a slight improvement.
Yes, there's not like they're not doing anything. It's just that it takes time to build that kind of momentum. When you have so many men in parliament, and then you're trying to fit into your roles, settle into it, and get into the position where you're vocal, you're able to push through, you're able to lobby. All of those things take time.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to Parliament and talk about the incident that happened there last week. And you report heavily, you know, in regards to Parliament. And I mean, that shocked, literally. I saw in BBC do a story about, you know, the chaos that were in the National Assembly. For you, drawing comparisons between the National Assembly and the Senate, which prides itself as the upper house, you know, how can you rate their performance in the last 1 year, especially for the National Assembly?
I think, again, maybe our drafter, there was something that they should have added, because there's no way you can put both houses in the same level. If you look at the same system that we borrowed, that the US has and even Nigeria has, you find the Senate is the upper house, whereby the National Assembly will do their stuff, but it has to go to the Senate for second opinion. And that is why if you look at our constitution, it has borrowed so much, it has put so much on the National Assembly that the Senate has virtually nothing, because it only talks about the counties. So anything that does not touch on counties, it's automatically in the National Assembly. And because of this, that is why we see this chaos, because one, we have 349 members, of which some of them up to now do not even understand the standing orders in the House or the House procedure. Now, here is a case where there's something that is supposed to be pushed. Some of you will say, if it is something that is being pushed by Jubilee, I have to support it because it is a Jubilee thing. CORD will tell you, I am supporting it because this is a CORD agenda. So you find that we have leaders who literally do not understand why they're in that house and why they're even supposed to put their say. Now, if you come to the Senate, why they always approach issues with a sober mind is that, as opposed to the National Assembly, where an MP votes individually, in the Senate, it's a delegation. So you look at it and you say, this is a delegation of maybe a county like Nairobi that has 17 constituencies. So I'm carrying the load of 17 constituencies. So whatever vote I have to put must be something that will represent the people of Nairobi. Right. And that is why you find that most of the time, the push and pull and the sharp division that we see in the National Assembly, we don't see it in the Senate.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
But in terms of performance, I think both houses have tried. If you go back to 2013 and 2014 and 2015, the chaos that we used to see in the National Assembly, and now I think they've actually improved.
Improved.
Improved. Yeah. Not so much, but they've improved. if you go back with what we saw with the security amendment laws and the way they tackled the elections law, remember when the chaos just picked up, the speaker adjourned the session and they walked out. So because of that, we avoided so much with what we saw in the past.
Okay.
But if you come to the Senate, that is unheard of. Because there are times that you'll find they differ in opinion to the extent that the speaker will ask a member to step out. But the speaker will not order the orderlies to eject you the way we see it happening in the Senate, so in the National Assembly. Yeah. So maybe again it narrowed down to the leadership of both houses.
Leadership of both houses. All right, so let's talk about your, is it worst experience as a Kenyan, and especially somebody who, you know, is fighting for human rights, for the rights of, you know, Kenyans. What was the worst thing that happened this year?
The worst thing that happened this year happened on January 15th, and that was the El Ade attack on KDF forces. And I'll say why. First of all, it was the most brutal attack on AMISOM and KDF forces since 1963, and since our engagement in Somalia. The sort of devastation that the entire country felt, and as citizens that we felt, the pain of losing so many of our soldiers is still resonating with us. And then beyond that is now you're asking about the human rights angle. What happens in such a situation when the military faces such a great loss? The machinery of recuperating from that loss, in the process of doing that, you'll see that there are a lot of actions taken that may be excessive, that may be considered unfair, and on reflection, you know, maybe we could have done this better. And so you've seen the repercussions of the El Ade attack from January. 4 days later, KDF was able to recapture El Ade, but every subsequent action by the military after that, that sort of aggressiveness has been, and the hostilities has been escalated.
All right. So, Roselyn, do you share the same views that El Ade could just be one of the worst things that happened here in the country, or even something that affected many Kenyans?
I think so, because remember, some of the people who had gone to El Ade were just people who had just passed out. So some of them, it was just their first assignment. Some of them, they were the breadwinners of their families. So many families were affected by this attack. But again, we should also remember during the demonstrations to evict the IEBC commissioners, we also saw people die. And I think that is not the way to go with what we experienced in 2007, because we're just breeding chaos. If we have to go with the same mindset in next year, then we're just telling our country that we are going to have a replica of what we had in 2007.
All right. Yeah. So we'll be speaking about those protests, the tear gas Mondays, shortly. For now, though, we want to take a break here on News Center. Remember, this is a special coverage. We're taking a look at the highlights, the biggest highlights of 2016, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Remember, something else that was amazing was the Olympics and how Kenyans were able to shine at the Olympics. We'll be talking about that and so much more. Remember, you can interact with us, share what you liked most about 2016 and what your expectations about the new year 2017 are. I would like to hear your thoughts. News Center is our hashtag. Also tweet me at Betty Kyalo, and I'll be taking a look at your responses when we come back from this break. Okay, so we take it. We'll be back in a few minutes.